I feel like time in prayer is something I really look forward to each day. I think back to when I was younger and I remember being able to pray pretty easily, but it's never really been hard for me to go to God with things. But I think what I've struggled in is how I'm praying or what I'm praying about exactly. Like recently, my prayer life has been super petition based and where I'm just asking God of things based on the current season that I'm in. And I want to do more adoration and praising of God for who he is and all that he's done in my life and in general throughout the Bible. But I think recently it's just been focused on that petitioning type of prayer. I think back to like high school and I can just remember going to God with everything. I was going through a lot personally. I don't know, I wasn't really mature in high school, but I still prayed, even if the prayers weren't exactly what was best for me or what would eventually happen. But regardless, I still kept praying, and I'm glad I kept praying because that, in hindsight, was such a impactful season of my life in prayer. I want to share a couple of things that you can do if you want to pray more often, and pray maybe deeper. Depends on how much you take these things and run with them. But these are things that have actually helped me pray more often and get more out of prayer with the Lord. The first one is being in a heart posture of gratitude when it comes to prayer. I know of seasons in my life where I've been praying more over things that I am grateful for, and though it's a struggle right now, I'm still incorporating it, but I know there have been other seasons where I have been having a heart postured more towards gratitude. In this season where I'm kind of scratching to pray more prayers of gratitude. Hold on, my camera is going out of focus. So I gotta readjust this. Doing it even though I may not be feeling it all the time. What's been helpful with that is really just looking at the things around me and saying, all right, God, I'm just grateful for the ability to walk. I'm thankful for the sun that's shining down on my face. I'm thankful for the lungs that I have to be able to breathe the air that I'm breathing. Thank you for giving me these things. Thank you for a new day to glorify you. Thank you for an opportunity to make money and provide for my family. Even if it's just the bare minimum, the things that seem obvious or that we often, I know for me, take for granted, just pray those things. Praise God for those things and thank him for those things, because when it feels like in my life, I may not have something that I'm seeking or desiring, at least I have these things. And ultimately, at least I have a relationship with the Lord. Above all else, that is the greatest thing that I can be thankful for. Being out in nature is one of the main ways where I really connect with the Lord, because it helps me to slow down and just look at the things that are going on around me. I'm not focused on the stress of what the day may have, but I'm focused on, man, this weather feels so nice. This sun feels so good. The wind, the blue sky. I can look off in the distance and see, I don't know how far you can see, a mile ahead? Probably not a mile ahead, but I can see far compared to just staring at a screen all day for work or for YouTube. And I can take a deep breath, and that warmth around me in the environment, but also the movement of my body really helps me focus on the Lord, his beauty, his creation. And I remember being out on my patio one morning. I think it was either before work or on a Saturday. Maybe it was a Saturday because it was just easier to do this. But I remember hearing the birds chirping, seeing the sun rise just ever so slowly, and just thanking God for those things. Thank you for the birds chirping and for giving them the ability to do that so that it reminds me of you, Lord. Thank you for the sunrise, the way that it slowly creeps up but brings warmth every now and then, and it slowly picks up. Thank you for the wind. Thank you for the cars driving by, for the people that are there. Thank you for, I don't know, everything. Thank you for all the things that are around me right now to fully enjoy this moment and just be present. And though it seems really small, honestly, like, oh, I'm praying about the chair that I'm sitting on. Why am I praying for that? But it's like the simple prayers of gratitude to the Lord are honestly empowering, and they're prayers. It's still an act of connecting to the Lord and talking with Him, not just going on throughout your day without even getting a chance to connect or talk to God. Sometimes when I feel like I'm at a loss of words on what to pray, often a verse will come to my mind, and I can use that as the prayer, or I can use it as a springboard into more deeper, more vulnerable, and more intimate prayer. I think of like Psalm 139, verses 23 and 24 lately, which says, "Search me, O God, and know my heart. Test me and know my anxious thoughts. See if there's any offensive way in me, and lead me in the way everlasting." A verse like that helps me to springboard into a deeper prayer for what the day may hold. I was telling my friend this, but I'm trying to just surrender the days more to the Lord. And what that looks like is praying Psalm 139 in those verses 23 and 24. As soon as I wake up, I sit up, I swing my legs over the edge of the bed, and before I put my socks on and put clothes on, I just try to pray that. And I haven't been consistent with that. I haven't been the best at that. But the desire to do that, and the moments that I do end up praying that, I notice how much it has a rippling effect into the rest of my day. So a simple prayer like that, where you're focused on a verse and meditating and praying over that, can really launch you into either a deeper prayer or simply change the mentality of the situation you're in or what's to come throughout the rest of the day. Lately, another verse that I've been trying to pray is 2 Corinthians 10:5, which says, "We destroy arguments and every lofty opinion raised against the knowledge of God, and take every thought captive to obey Christ." Trying to pray that aloud in the moment is difficult, but I know the benefit that it can bring, where I take a thought captive and obey Christ and choose His way rather than what my flesh wants. Is a simple prayer, is not that long, but it just changes everything. And so being able to pray verses more throughout the day or more often in the circumstance that you're in is a way to pray more, even though it seems super simple. Like, oh, it's just a verse. Well, it's not just a verse, because it could transform the rest of your day, and you can pray it throughout the day. Keep going, keep praying, keep meditating and reflecting on that verse as you go on throughout the day. I think it's easy for me to go on throughout my day and sometimes forget that our God is a relational God, and He wants to connect with you. He wants to be with you. He wants to hear from you. And so I have been trying to update God throughout the day more. And what I mean by that is just sharing to Him and praying to Him, okay, God, this is what's going on. This is what I'm doing. This is what's working. This is what's hard. Yeah, just talking to God about what is going on in that moment, whether it's me entering data in a spreadsheet. Like maybe I'll say, God, thank you for giving me the ability to type. I mean, that goes back to the first point, but just updating Him like, God, I am working on this project and it's difficult. Help me to help me to get through this and find the discipline and the motivation to endure and push through and do it well. Help me to be faithful to what I'm doing right now in this job, in this whatever I'm in, whether that's driving or at church or at work or wherever. I think about my friends, and on social media, I can easily see what they're doing on Instagram. But like, there's so much that I'm missing that I don't know unless I actually talk with them and unless they share it with me. Like, I could see them kayaking or canoeing or doing whatever they're doing, but I don't know how it was to get in the canoe. Like, did you fall? Were you guys good? Did you have to wear a life vest? How much did it cost? Unless they share with me those things. And I mean, I'll always ask questions, I'll always extend, but it's up to them to also share with me what they want to share. And so sometimes I feel like, not that God feels that way, but I feel like we can have the same type of thing with God. Like, He knows what we're doing. Obviously, He can see it. He knows past, present, future. The act of updating Him and talking to Him about what's going on and the intricacies, whether it's good or bad, is different. It's a way for us to be intimate with the Lord, because we're talking with Him, talking to Him about the situation we're in. When I'm not listening to a podcast on the way home from work, I am trying to recap the day and say, God, this is what happened and this is how I'm feeling in this moment. And sometimes it leads into a more intimate prayer where I'm just pouring out my heart and how I'm feeling and my desires. Or it could end up just being like, God, thank you for the day. Thanks for getting me through the day, and here's what the day looked like, and how I saw you move throughout this day, and how I want to be better at being faithful to you, or being your hands and feet at work, and just things like that, where I'm talking about the day to God and updating him as if I'm updating my friend or my wife or whoever it may be. With this idea of updating God throughout the day, sometimes I need to write out what I'm feeling and what might be coming up throughout the day. And so I've stopped recently. I should probably get back into it, but journaling in the mornings before I go to work, when I was doing it, was a great way for me to update God, or not even update God, but get things on paper that I might be feeling, but I don't know how to exactly communicate it. But I know how to write it. I know how to pray in words and write those prayers out into a journal, because as I'm writing, I get more ideas and I get more thoughts, and more things that I want to say and share with the Lord. It's a way for me to get out externally what I'm internally processing. And sometimes it starts off with me just saying or writing the time and then sharing how I'm feeling. But then often after I share what I'm feeling, I say, Lord, like, use this moment to make your name known. Or in the mornings when I'm feeling a certain way, I make it an opportunity to ask God to mold me into looking more like him. And it ends up, what I'm writing turns from being a reflection to being a prayer. So when there's moments where I don't know what to pray or how to pray, writing those journal entries about what's going on in my life end up leading into a written out prayer. Consistency with prayer often takes time, and I think too, something that I need to work on myself too is kind of dismantling what it means to pray. I can get into this rigid structure of like, okay, my prayer needs to be like this, and this. Like, it needs to have adoration, confession, thanksgiving, supplication, and it has to hit all these points. And then I get overwhelmed and I just end up not being real with God. I'm like, all right, I need to hit this, I need to hit this. And I just end up checking off a box rather than just pouring out my heart. For a while, I think part of the reason why I wasn't consistent with whether that's praying more, praying versus more, is because I didn't have a way to actually keep me not necessarily accountable, but like keep me on track. And so I recently designed this spiritual rhythms faith-based habit tracker. And I know, like, part of me thinks like, oh, is this gonna encourage people just to like check off a box and be like, I did it, and then not actually get the depth that they should be getting. But then the other part of me is like, it's not just a habit tracker or it's a way to check off a box, but it's also meant to help you reflect and aim towards a goal. And so I designed this habit tracker that has four main rhythms. That is praying, that is memorizing scripture, that is being in the word, and then that's finding freedom from any sort of addiction or finding freedom from any sort of sin that you're struggling with. And it's a 12-month habit tracker, and after each month there's four questions that help you figure out how you did this month and how you want to do the next month. And if being consistent in any of those areas is something that you want to work on, check it out. I'll leave a link in the description or in the comments, or it's probably on the screen tagged in the tagged product section. But feel free to check it out. It is honestly the investment of like a cup of coffee at Starbucks, but I think the investment into this is greater than the investment into a cup of coffee. So feel free to check it out if you're interested, and if you do end up purchasing it, buying it, and implementing it, I would love to hear how you're enjoying it or if you're not enjoying it. And hopefully it's something that can be of a resource to you. I've been using it since June, the beginning of June, after I designed it, and I've enjoyed it. I've enjoyed seeing the consistency in June and then figuring out how I can, for the next months, be consistent more or uh, keep the consistency going, and then reflect on, all right, here's where I fell short this month. So on the screen now is a video that I would love for you to watch next. So join me over there in that video.